How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. We are on, well, technically we're on day one. Free agency officially begins where players can actually put pen to paper today at 4 p.m. But we have been in the free agency phase of the NFL 2023 offseason since Monday, where the tampering phase began. Players agreed to contracts again, couldn't sign them, but could agree to contracts with teams. So we're on to day three today, and we're starting to see some Cincinnati fan unrest, and is it justified at this point? I mean, we're 3 days in. Hayden Hurst gone. Von Bell, both your starting safeties gone. Hayden Hurst gone. And you see big names like that walk out the door, and you say there's holes that need to be filled, and the Bengals have done just about nothing with the exception of signing Jermaine Pratt to a contract extension so far this offseason. And it makes you start to worry. It makes you start to wonder, because you can only draft so many positions in the draft. I mean, in a great draft, you hit on maybe 3 of your 7 selections and end up with starters, or maybe 4 in a great draft. If you can get 2 to 3, you're doing all right. And the Bengals need, if Mixon goes, a running back. They need a tight end. We're still not sure about the CB position, even if it is, hey, let's do Cam Taylor, Britt, let's do a Woozier. It's like, okay, where's the depth at? Obviously Hilton, but where's the depth at after that? I think that's the big concern here. If you look at the Bengals, you say, hey, they have this depth the last couple of seasons. It's all gone right now in a lot of positions because of the guys that are gone and these guys that got to step up. So you lose the depth in your deeper positions, if you will, and then you still have the concerns in other positions, obviously, that you'd like to improve as well, whether it be a tackle position. I can't stress enough, we hear a lot of talk about, let's get some weapons. Let's get some tight ends. Let's get some wide receivers. Let's pay these studs. Let's make sure we're paying T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Controversy for another day. Let's talk about what the Kansas City Chiefs did. They won a Super Bowl. Did they go out and sign some $20 million wide receivers? No, they still have their average, at best, wide receivers with obviously the best in the league at tight end. But the Bengals could say, hey, we can have the best in the league at wide receiver and then build around that as well. But what did the Kansas City Chiefs do with that? They didn't say, hey, we need to get Mahomes some more weapons. They said, hey, let's get a $20 million left tackle to make sure Patrick Mahomes still has time to sling the rock. And we like to bring up Mahomes because I think Joe Burrow can do what Mahomes does, if not more. Obviously, different arm strength, different athletic ability. But besides that, from a moving the football down the field standpoint, I think he can do that, if not more, if he's got the time. You're not worried about these weapons because he's going to find the open guy every single time. You want an elite number one. Look what Rodgers did back in the day with Devontae Adams. Look, again, you look at all these quarterbacks, they get an elite number one. You have some guys around him, but you have to protect him. So there's question marks around the offensive line. Are they worried about the offensive line? Do you want depth? Are you trusting in the guys you have? The safety position, you have 2 young safeties. Tyson Anderson, you can't depend on this guy to be your starter, I don't think. Even if he turns out to be down the road, he's got injuries. He's got to prove himself. So you have Dax Hill and company back there. There's just so many positions that this Cincinnati Bengals team needs to fill. And I feel like at this point in time, it is deservedly and rightfully, understandably so. That was a whole lot of words put together at once, to be worried and concerned what the Bengals are doing. We also have to be mindful of the fact that for the past 3 years, ever since Zach Taylor was signed, I think we've been questioning the Cincinnati Bengals front office, the decisions, the free agency choices, and so forth. And have they done everything but prove us wrong from those regards? And I think this front office has more than earned, and they more than deserve, our patience, our respect, and our trust that they're going to make things work, even though we're in day 3. I think my big concern here is I think they're going to figure it out. I think, mid-season, Bengals are going to be all right. They're going to have the signings. Eventually, they're going to come. I think my big concern, though, is there really is this sweet spot in free agency. You have the beginning phase where it's like teams may overpay for some big-ticket guys to make sure they get him. That phase is gone. Then you have the ending phase where you lose, or you're down to, we should say, a smaller pool of players. Teams get desperate and they overpay some players that may not be as good because they still need to desperately fill that position. And then you have the sweet spot in the middle where it is a small and short-lived sweet spot. I'd say we're in that. We're exiting it now, where you got some guys that are going under the radar that aren't being completely pursued by every single team, that can go under the radar. You still could get cheap deals for. And that's why you look and say you got to be active in that particular phase of free agency. And if you come away with nothing in that phase, it is a concern. Again, you see, it was a really good deal. The Carolina Panthers deal they got on Von Bell, that was a really good deal. Not that we're upset or anything about the Bengals letting him go, but yeah, it might be a little bit sense of sarcasm. But you look at guys like that and say, hey, you can get a really big, great veteran like that on a cheap contract, and there's other positions much like that. I'd like to see what they did with the tight end position. Everybody trusts in a deep tight end draft. Fact of the matter is, I mean, is it really deep? We'll see when it happens. The history doesn't lie. It's still very difficult to get top end tight ends out of the draft, multiple, to say the least, in 1 year. So it's like, hey, maybe you scoop up a tight end in free agency that's going cheap right now because there's so many available, supply and demand. Or again, you say, is there any offensive tackles or a CB? You have to, I think, address one of these positions in free agency. You don't want to wait until it's too late and overpay for a guy when you're worried about the cap, because I think that's the Bengals' biggest concern here, is retaining their young players in the system on the team right now. But it's also very important to understand, like the Chiefs just did, they're still making moves. The Bills, they're still making moves to improve their teams. You can't let guys walk and then not make an attempt to improve in other positions. That's how you go from Super Bowl contender to slowly down the hill, where you're making playoffs, but you're not making a lot of progress in a postseason. So it is important that they can continue to address things at free agency. I think here they got to spend wisely. They've done so in the past. I think we have to trust this front office. I think we have to be patient, but I can definitely feel the patience is getting a little bit shorter right now if you're a Bengals fan. Love you guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.